Had a massive day yesterday. God, look at that. The strategy is working so well. The strategy is really working very well. You can make a living off of this. You can totally make a living or a side hustle off of this one strategy. We are using a modified version of the opening range breakout. We have a very specific set of rules that we've put into place here at TrendCloud. We've back tested everything. We've back tested the opening range very specifically, right? Ran it through ChatGPT. We ran the data through ChatGPT, and it's been very effective. It's been very effective. In fact, it's so effective that you can really take this into a prop trading firm account, which is what we're going to record this month. And I'm going to get set up over at Top Step, and we're going to do the same exact thing. And the competition really got us ready for that, because the competition, there are rules that you have to follow, and very, very specific rules for the competition. And when you can follow rules in your own trade plan, but then you have to follow the rules of the competition, it makes it even more challenging, right? And so if you get used to that, it will be a big help. Now, right here, and I don't see my microphone. I don't know why my microphone isn't moving here, but it says I'm talking, so I'm sure you guys can hear me. Let's see here. So we've got all of our conditions met, right? We've got a very bullish candle forming on the opening range here. 3-hour chart is in an uptrend. My goodness, this thing is just, I wish I was holding on to a contract here. I wish I was holding on to a contract. Man, I said I was going to hold on to a contract, and I was like, just close out. This is a day trade, like close out. So I'm really not used to the NASDAQ moving like this. And it usually doesn't. You usually get these deep pullbacks. You get in, make your money, and then deep pullback. But here we seem to be catching the actual trend. Look at this. You get in, very deep pullback. You get in, deep pullback, right? So very rarely does it do something like this. And I think Phyllis was mentioning that before in the chat, like, I closed out. I should have held on to at least one contract. Well, it doesn't usually do that for us, does it? So I think she just jumped in. Yeah, Phyllis just jumped in here now. Yeah. So why didn't we hold on to a contract, Phyllis? I mean, it's like, but I was saying it rarely does this. It rarely does this. You get in, you make your money during the day, and then you get this big, deep pullback, right? Trend goes extended, deep pullback here, or crosses above. You make your money, you get this deep pullback into trend cloud. Here it worked, right? But very, very rarely will it run like that. Say you make your money, deep pullback. These 3-hour pullbacks are quite significant on the lower time frames, especially on a 5 or 15-minute chart. So when you see this, like even this little pullback here, here's a 3-hour pullback into the 3-hour trend cloud. Well, this is pretty long, right? This is pretty long here, from here to here on the 5-minute chart, or the 15-minute chart. Let's go to time like that. Click here, and just to see here, is it not showing up? Oh, my line isn't showing up. I must not have it on global. No, I do. Oh, that's weird. Well, it's right here. So you can see from here all the way down to here. Oh, that's pretty significant on the 15-minute chart, even longer on the 5-minute chart. So yeah.
Well, yesterday when I was adjusting my stop, and then I finally said, just it's going to turn around because it got above that all-time high. And I thought,
Yes.
it's going to battle here for a while. And so I closed out. But then I saw this other little demand zone formed. I thought, just do a little trade there and see. And by the time I left my desk, I went, nope, I'm closing out. And it started a whole new little run right there. I'm like, no, but yeah,
Yeah,
it usually comes back and really
pretty
retest. But
significantly.
we have nothing to complain about. We took our
Sure.
profit and we didn't lose anything. So that was all good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to take profits, and you kind of get in the mindset sometimes of, oh, this thing is going to go forever. like when think about like towards the beginning of when you started trading, it's like, oh, I'm not going to take the target because I know this thing is going to go further, and
Yeah.
you always get stopped out or it pulls back. So that's when you learn I have to take targets along the way because you just never know what's going to happen. We don't have a crystal ball. I don't think ChatGPT can even build us a crystal ball. So it's like, well, because we don't know what's going to happen, you have to take targets along the way. So we've been trained by the market to do that.
Right.
And then when something like this happens, this is rare. This is pretty rare, but you can take notice of it. And it would have to be part of your strategy where you keep like one micro contract or something, no matter what. It's like, okay, well, we'll leave a micro on there. So we don't have any data on that, right? It's just a theory. So if we had some data on that and said, oh, well, usually when you take a trade, I don't know, 45% of the time it runs, so it's worth keeping that micro on there. On the smaller accounts, it may not be the best strategy. You may be giving back 100 here, 200 there, and on those smaller accounts, it kind of adds up. So what do you do? You'd have to look at the higher time frame and say the 1 hour chart, being that that's our trending time frame. And you say, well, this thing is really taken off to the upside. Why don't we hold a contract on the 1 hour until we get a look at how the candles never closed inside of the trend cloud.
Right.
That could be a nice indication, like, oh, you know what? It's the end of the day. We haven't closed inside of the 1 hour trend cloud. Let's hold one micro contract or something. And look at that. It just never even closed inside of the 1 hour there. Or the three, well, and naturally the 3 hour. That's very strong. That's a very strong upward move and break into new highs. Very bullish candle. 9:30 forming this rally, base rally. Where's my line here now? Oh, look at that. Look how my line, I want that to be global. What happened here? Visibility. Aha. No, it's on there. Why is my line not global? New drawings will sync globally. Yeah. Okay, let's try it again. Let's put another line there. Why are my lines not? There we go. Okay. So there's the high. There's the break of the all-time high right there, that black line there on the daily chart. Right. Look at that consolidation right on that breakout to the all-time high right there. Breakout to the all-time high. And it just consolidated there. Boom, boom, boom. Trend cloud signals firing off. I put our stochastic on the lower time frame as well, just to start paying attention to the timing. So, impulse will be green on the stochastic. Correction into trend cloud will be red on the stochastic. And it'll just give us, a little bit more timing capabilities. My goodness. Opening range. The open has been very powerful, very strong open. Another 5 minutes left. Obviously, we're looking for some kind of a long. This is a really nice area here for a retest.
My question in Facebook was, I mean, so when we do look at because I look at all, and when I prep in the morning, you start up at the day daily, and I come all the way down through the 30, and
Yeah,
down to the 15 minute, and when I looked at Trend Cloud on the 30 minute, it's showing that now we've got this extended trend in there for the 30 minute. But is it just because the 30 minute is extended? I mean, do we pay attention to that at this point? I mean, because look at
absolutely.
everything else, we're sitting there going, okay, this thing's just going to go because we have no
So,
history, we have no supply history to
yeah,
tell us where it's going to stop us.
exactly. So take a look. Here's the 30-minute, right? 30
Mhm.
minute is extended going into that seventh wave. That's a great observation, Phyllis, because we know now that this thing will need to recalculate. We don't know when it's going to recalculate, But if we start getting a deep pullback here, look at where it has to go. It has to go on the 30-minute chart right below the 50 simple moving average, which is back below the all-time high. So when you're looking at, hey, where can this thing retest and continue the move up? It's going to be eventually somewhere below here because it has to close below the 50 simple moving average to recalculate. So it's actually helping us pinpoint where that pullback is going to take place and reverse from. So this has to come all the way down to here, which is very close. Yeah, let's take a look. Let's just do a little box right at this rally base rally here on the 30-minute. Let's do like that and see how does that look on the 15-minute chart? There you go, drop base rally into another, well, just kind of look at how all of these candles here kind of pull back to that area. Whoops, there we go. Pretty interesting, right? So if we made like a little adjustment here and kind of pulled that to, look how it climbed out of that. Support, 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 and then it didn't make it back down and then took off. 30-minute, that's how it looks on the 30-minute with that little, can even draw a little trend line, like to hit the bodies of those trend lines. This is going to have to come down. Put trend cloud on there. Wow, super extended. So it's going to have to come down in here, which is quite a ways away. 15-minute chart. So it's either going to become really extended today on the 30-minute, go out to the 1 hour, and the 1 hour is almost there, right, Phyllis? It's here's 3, 4. It's going to make that fifth wave very soon. It's going to make that fifth wave. So another minute left on here. How much further is this bad boy going to go? Holy cow. I'm definitely on this one, maybe knowing the information. So given the information that we have, and that 30 minutes extended, the 1 hour is about to create a fifth wave, which is the average trend. Look how far back the 1 hour is going to have to go. It's going to have to go past this 30-minute zone. It's going to have to pull back here.
On the 5-minute, it just created a little bit of structure when the 5-minute candle closed. But
yeah. So what do we do here? Let's go to the 5-minute and wait for the 5-minute to close above. So we've got a bullish candle. There you go. Rally base rally. Let's wait, for a 5-minute candle to close above the opening range, and then we can take it, right inside of, or we can just take a short target, But being that we're so close to that, we have an upward cycle on the 3 hour, upward cycle on the 1 hour. Maybe we've got a little bit more of this thing to run. It's at the top. It's at the top of the cycle. So it's getting ready to make a little bit of a correction, right? So maybe it breaks out, does some sort of deeper correction, gives us a little bit more of a move up. We never know, right? We never know. Let's see, how much is this thing going to cost us today? Probably another 400, about $400 if we put it right underneath. Yeah, so it's usually about 600 right underneath there. Right in here. Now the 30-minute is cycling down, so this is understandable, right? Because that 30-minute is cycling down.
I thought
Let's see if we
I thought it might come in and touch the trend cloud. I didn't.
right here.
Yeah, I set up at that rally base rally down at, well, but I'm on the micro. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm
Oh
on the
yeah, okay.
mini, but I thought it would. There's kind of a little point of imbalance right there. It's in the trend cloud. There's a rally base rally. I thought it might come to. I don't know.
On the 5-minute chart.
Oh no, on the 15. Sorry.
15-minute, and on the micro NASDAQ.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this
Yeah.
little
It's like The entry would be at 22,465. I don't know. There's a whole lot going on.
65 around here. This
That little dude, yeah.
right by previous day's high. That's inside of the 30-minute. Yeah, we don't know.
I'm, I'm capturing that phrase now. I'm understanding it. We don't know. So
We don't know which one is going to. But we can think, as long as you can think logically about it, right? So, we've got an uptrend 3-hour chart. We're extended on the 30-minute, which you found, which is a great observation. We know that right around in this area here is where the 30-minute has to pull back to in order to recalculate. And that's right in this consolidation. That's right where this thing consolidated, formed the opening range, and now we're pulling back. And look at very, very bearish candle forming on the 30-minute. So I think this is definitely a good time frame to look at today, being that the 30-minute is extended. Let's see what happens here. We'll drop down to the 5. If we get a breakout to the downside on the 5-minute chart here, that would actually be good because it would give us the pullback that we're looking for, and we could get in on this thing, not on the breakout, but on the pullback into some sort of demand zone. So we're demand zone guessing or hunting right now. And maybe when it comes down into that, 5-minute demand zone, we can start using our confirmation entry candles and we can place that on the chart. And, we'll see a red candle form, a couple of black and white candles, and then maybe that green candle formation gives us a little bit more of an edge on deciding when to take the trade out of a particular demand zone that we find. But look at this very bearish candle on the 30-minute, which makes total sense, doesn't it? I mean, this is the 7th wave up. That's a 7th wave. That's very extended. 7, 8. When you're in the 9th wave, even 9th wave is like even better. It's like, oh man, we're really outside of the bell curve here, and looking for something. That's a huge edge. That's a really big edge there on that 30-minute. So good find, Phyllis. Good find. And look, it's in alignment. Like you look at your charts, you're able to visually understand the price action, the extended trend, and you try to put the pieces together and you say, wow, the 30 minutes extended. Here's where I know it's got to go to recalculate. Let's start looking for some demand zones on the lower time frame, in this area here. And so, you do something like this, and then you go back to your chart and you're like, okay, what does that look like here on the 5-minute? Now that's pretty far away. That's down here. And that's all consolidation, right? That's all consolidation. This is the area to pay attention to. Consolidate. Nothing goes past that. So got a little red candle there forming, breaks below, retest, and then hits somewhere down here. So you're just trying to put the pieces together. If the 30-minute was, kept going, we wouldn't really have any info. But now we've got an extended trend on the 30. It didn't break out to the upside, right? It completely reversed on the opening range. That information kind of lines up with what we're looking at here. So we have to stick with that until it doesn't, until it doesn't make sense. But this makes sense. Extended trend, 30-minute. Maybe we're going to get a 5-minute, right? We got a 5-minute break below the opening range. Can we get a close below? It might do this a couple of times, but so far it's hanging out at the bottom here. So this extended trend fits with the 5-minute price action. So we have to stick with that until it tells us to do something else. Cycling down on the 30-minute. cycling down on the 5 minute. So right now the timing is in alignment to the downside here. Uptrend, very strong. So we're looking at some sort of deep pullback perhaps today. It would be very nice if it just did what we said it was going to do, right? But in the ever changing world of price action, right? Second by second, things could change. Very difficult. That's why they say it's almost impossible to really time the market. All we can do is read price action and try to analyze what's going on by putting these pieces together, across different time frames. It's very interesting. It's detective work, right? Now this makes sense, right? 5 minute chart pulled into trend cloud, deep enough to fire off a 5 minute trend cloud signal. Let's see, right? We were talking about this yesterday, right, Phyllis? The when we start seeing those 5 minute trend cloud signals fail, aha, that's another indication, right? So we have to see if these trend cloud signals on the 5 minute chart start failing. And then we know that's another piece of information that this is really getting ready to make the pullback. 3 minutes left on that 30-minute candle. Very interesting stuff. Now, if we didn't see this because I didn't look at the 30-minute, I might be more bullish, right? But this kind of makes us a little weary. And 30-minute, 1 hour, I mean, those are pretty significant time frames for trend. Getting a nice move here, right? Rejected this area here. The 5 minute chart. We'll open that up. All right, 2 minutes left on this. Pretty bullish candle there on the 5 minute. Let's see if it could break through. Let me turn off the 5 minute opening range, being that we're not really using that. In hindsight, my goodness, this has been going up since Sunday. I'm definitely paying attention to those Sunday 6 p.m. Eastern open box out. Our instrument or our opening range tool doesn't draw the lines for you on Sundays, only Monday through Friday. Just I would draw it out in like purple dotted lines or something, but very significant. It seemed to be a pretty good area or zone for an entry on the NASDAQ specifically. I love being super specific about stuff to eliminate any type of subjectiveness, that's really what we like to do. And it seems to really benefit us being as objective as possible, because everything is a big what if. Which zone is it going to be? We don't know. And that's being very transparent. When you're transparent with yourself, like I really don't know what supply zone or demand zone this thing is going to hit and react off of. It puts your risk management into better perspective, right? You've got to play a defensive game. Otherwise, you end up giving back all your profits. And that's not the game we want to play. We want to hold on to profits and lock in, right? Hit targets, lock in profits, protect the capital. And that's what shareholders want from their hedge fund managers. That's what corporations want from their traders. Don't worry about protecting the capital. Don't worry about it. I don't think they're saying that. So all of this is pretty necessary. It's all pretty necessary. Okay, so we've got a trend cloud signal on that 5 minute. We kind of want it to fail at this point, right? We want extended trends to pull back to where we say it should pull back and recalculate. We want that because if the trend is extended, it's like, don't really want to get into this long. If the trend is extended, I really wish you would pull back, fill the car up with gas. It's just very stressful. And it's kind of stressful when you're actually in a car and you really don't know where you're going and the gas light goes on. I mean, how many times have you been in that situation? I remember I was driving around, God, I think I was in Alabama. I didn't know where I was going. And I'm in a rental car and the gas light went on and I had no idea where there was a gas station. I'm looking in my GPS. I think my phone was about to die. Very stressful. Very stressful. So I like to use that analogy with the extended trend because hey man, no matter what time frame you're on, right? In this case, it's the 30-minute chart, extended trend. Like we're running out of gas here. We need to find a gas station. Pretty stressful. And the gas station is always below the 50 simple moving average on whatever time frame, you're looking at.
I just wanted it to do it to get it over with because it's fun
Yes.
to do it. And so it's like,
We
come on, just get it over
Come
with.
on already. Come on already. We had that conversation a couple of weeks ago, right? It's like, come, would you just do it already? Yeah, waiting around. Oof, that's a rough one. That's that's a rough one. All right, so look, this trend cloud signal looks like it wants to fail. That's a signal in itself. So it's crossing below the candle. So when you take a trend cloud signal, you're taking the candle that creates the signal, and you're taking the entry like one tick above that candle that made the signal, right? Right there. And then your stop loss goes like below that candle essentially. And so this thing is breaking through the low of that candle. So this guy right here. Now, I would probably, if I was taking this signal long, I would definitely have my stop below, that little guy right there. I'd have my stop right there. So let's see if this thing sure looks like it. So our theory, our observations are lining up, aren't they? Our observations are lining up here, and we're starting to see a pullback. I don't understand momentum and trend. It's all in the up. It's all supposed to be going up. Little details, right? Little observations. Oh, the trend is extended on the 30-minute chart. Down here, 30-minute, come on, right down here. Candle has to close. So we're heading for that previous day's close. There's a line there, right? These are nice support levels. And, that's where it has to close. Here's some candlestick structure here, right? So, you can be as critical as you want, I mean, this is all minutia. This is all very minor stuff like, oh, we should put the line right there. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really work that way, right? It's this general area here below the 50. Now, if we see this cycle indicator here on the 30-minute, if we see this, drop below this line here, right? We've got the 70-30 on there. Drops below the 30, makes a nice deep pullback like this, maybe gives us a couple of, doesn't really do that. Kind of pulls back and doesn't give you any crossovers. It's just kind of one crossover. Pulls down below that 30 line, K crosses over %D, and then we get that move up. That's where we want it. Okay, go back to what's it look like on the 15? Okay, 15-minute. Confirmation candle turning red there. Let's not have too much info on there. Information overload. Yep, kind of retested. See if we get a breakout to the downside now. It gave us a little indication, right? It gave us a little warning right there, right? This 5-minute candle broke below, and then buyers came in and said, no, 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 buy, buy, buy. And then it did not break above previous structure high, and we're retesting this area. And now this candle, let's see if we can get another 2 minutes left on this 5-minute. Does this candle break out of the opening range to the downside, close below? We shall see. 5-minute is still in that corrective mode, right? Corrective phase. Another trend cloud signal trying to fire off here. I think it's going to be dicey today. I think it's going to be a little dicey.
I can guarantee it'll figure out what it's going to do about 3 o'clock this afternoon when I'm not paying any attention.
Yeah, exactly right. Nothing we can do about that.
It's okay. I don't want to have to live at my desk, so.
I know. Yeah. 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 That is the tough part. That is the tough part. Just no way around it. I guess the easy way around it is, to go over to your buy and hold account and jump onto the triple Q, the QQQ, and say, hey, you know what? This is a good buying opportunity here. Place a limit order on the QQQs to accumulate right? A little bit more. Great method. That you don't have to babysit as much. This is a morning opportunity. And if it doesn't happen in the morning, then, we all have to go do other things, live our lives. So it's like, I need you to break out exactly at 10 a.m. so that I can get my move and go to work. And the market says, well, chill.
Good luck with that.
We don't, we do, it's like a cat, right? It's like having a cat. It's like, listen, man. Well, I mean, that was a really good find, Phyllis, on that 30-minute chart, so it definitely pays to pay attention to those more of those trending time frames, 1 hour, 30 minute, those are usually the basic trending time frames.
But I wouldn't understand. I don't understand why then it's not extended on the 15-minute. Why is it only the 30 that turns not
Oh,
showing it as extended?
yeah, that has to do with the the ebb and flow, right? So 30-minute here, 30-minute extended, right? So if the 30-minute is extended, then why isn't it extended on the 15? Well, because look at how this recalculated already,
Okay,
you
got it.
know? Yep. Those deeper pullbacks. It's a great question. It's a great question.
So it really is
Um,
about waves then.
it's about the waves. Yeah, it's about that wave count because it is a mathematical formula, right, to produce those numbers. So,
Right.
and it says price goes below the 50 simple, then recalculate, and so that's what we've got here.
On
So
the
yeah,
5 minute, it just touched the 50 simple. So
yep, there we go. So we just broke through that trend cloud signal, right? So if we entered the trade long on this trend cloud signal, we would have been stopped out. So that's a piece of information. That's a piece of information. It looks like we've got another 2 minutes left. Looks like this may close, right? Now we're starting to say, this thing is probably going to close outside the opening range. Maybe we get a little bounce, right? This is the first touch of the 50 simple moving average on the 5-minute chart here. Usually that first hit on the 50 will cause some sort of a bounce. How we don't know the magnitude of it, but we know it does something, right? 2 minutes left. I think this is going to close just below the opening range. So that breakout to the downside, technically, right, in our strategy, kind of either negates the trade or we look for some kind of bear trap, right? Which this would be the bear trap down here. Those don't work as well, right? We've had some losing trades on the traps when you've got those components, those three components met, right? In the actual breakout strategy, 3 hour CCI above the zero line, 1 hour CCI above the zero line, and in an uptrend. Those three major components, that's like the skeleton of our strategy, the bare bones minimum. When you have that met and the breakout happens into the upside, you've got yourself a good trade. It's okay to risk some money on that. But when it does a little breakout to the downside, look at that. Look at that. Great.
so that
We,
zone that it's going to right now that I'm still hung up on, that 15-minute zone. I mean, it's just kind of a rally, yeah, base rally. You
uh
would go lower than that. What is it about that zone that you're not excited about?
Well, I mean, I'm more excited about this piece right here. This is where price took off from, right?
Fair point. Yeah, yeah.
So all of this is consolidation, and we know price likes to revisit consolidation. This is where the buyers said, okay, we're ready. This is where all the sellers got eaten up. So this is interesting here. And if we go to the 30, let's just draw a line like this. We'll do like this. This is where all the buyers came in. Again, it's just an area. We'll put trend cloud back on there and go to the 30. Yeah, okay. So it's nice, right? But look where the 50 is. It would have to close a little bit below. It would have to close a little bit below there to recalculate.
Right.
So it's just for your eye, to see. But yeah, you look for Where did this leave? Here's consolidation. Where did price end up leaving? Right in this area here, right? So why don't we encompass all of this? So I think it's got to close a little bit below the previous day's close. Let's wait for the 5-minute candle to close below the previous day's close. And then, you know, we'll start looking for some reason to take the trade. And maybe that's when we start to employ those confirmation entry candles. Use the tools that you've got, 15-minute. So the 15-minute has closed below the opening range. We're inside of that trend cloud now. We're probably going to start firing off a 15-minute trend cloud signal now. There we go. Starting to fire off that. Now on the 15-minute chart, right? We're pulling back, creating that fourth wave. We got one more move up. So what's going to happen? Little bit more of an extension on the 30-minute, or does it continue to break down? I think we may start to break down here. Maybe we retest the top of the opening range. See, that's where the problem-solving part of your brain is starting to come in. You have a solid understanding of price action and structure, and you can say, all right, let's see, extended trend on the 30-minute. This is breaking out to the downside on the opening range. We know that 5-minute candle, that's a confirmation signal of the direction that this thing is going to go, at least for a little while. Where does this thing want to go? Oh, look, here's consolidation. Here's where the buyers came in and made a move. This area is looking pretty interesting, for some kind of pullback. Is it going to be here? Is it going to be this thing? That we don't know, but we do know we've got ourselves a strong uptrend on the 3-hour and 1-hour, and the 30-minute wants to recalculate, below this line here. And that's what it's heading for. Could be pretty messy of a process. I know that now, if we were going to take this short, we're going against a lot of momentum and trend, and it would be a much shorter target, right? So you got to think to yourself, again, as a beginner, you want to trade everything, Well, NASDAQ is so strong, super strong. Hey, let's wait for this pullback to end and then jump back on board. This is such a good thing. This is such a great opportunity because NASDAQ seems to be trending to the upside. Golly, let's hold on to let's see if we can hold on to a couple of micro contracts till the end of the competition, to the end of the month, and just follow it up with a trailing stop. This is a great opportunity. We want this pullback to take place. Please give us another chance to buy some contracts here and take this thing up. But this thing has been moving up since 6 p.m. on Sunday. Gosh, I almost had it too. I almost got in on that. This would have been going on for 3 days. This is a 3-day swing trade so far. And with the way the money is, that's what's so fun about trading futures. It's way simpler than options. I can't even follow options. I don't have time. I do not have time. Futures, your money's already like really leveraged. Like you're really leveraged. So the opportunity to hold on to one full contract, if you had a full contract of the NASDAQ and the account was big enough to hold, that one contract overnight, I think you need at least $3,000 or so. Boy, oh boy, you're looking at a, $10,000, $12,000 move. I don't know too many people that can do that in options. I hear a lot about options and all these the crazy amount of money that you make. I don't know anybody personally that does options like that. So I haven't seen it. But I've seen it in futures. I've done it in futures.
All the people I know that trade options, it seems that it's just kind of their hedge more than
Yes, well, that's actually what it was created for. Options it was created specifically for hedging. It's like buying insurance, you know, that's really the purpose of options, so but what I don't like about options is like in these vertical spreads, the risk to reward is inverted. So whenever you see these people advertising like, hey, learn options, let me show you my options formula or whatever, it's 93% accurate or some crazy 96% win rate. Well, yeah, it'll tell you, hey, this thing has a 96% chance of winning. It tells you somewhere in the option chain. However, the risk to reward is inverted. So you have to risk 600 to make 300, or something like whatever is there, but it's always inverted. And I asked one of my instructors about that. He's like, "Yeah, yeah, that's right." I'm like, "Well, I don't like that. That goes against everything that I learned. Let's see. 5 minute has definitely closed outside. So see how we're recalculating here? So this is going to be 1 again on the 5 minute chart, starting at 1. Now what we need to see on this 5 minute chart is that little black plus sign, this little black plus sign. We need to see that crossover start to take place on the 5 minute so that we can count maybe 1, 2, 3. Maybe that's like 3 waves down. So right around that third wave, and then we start seeing those 5 minute trend cloud signals to the downside start to fail. Now we're on to something. Now we do the reverse, right? And we start to say, okay, this is a place where we can get back in, right? We're calling the shots just as good as a crystal ball here. That's pretty crystal ballish, Phyllis. That's pretty crystal ballish what we just did in this half hour or whatever, almost an hour. We're almost at 10:30. So that's pretty baller right there. We called the shots on this thing because of your, 30-minute extended trend observation there. That was pretty essential, to this analysis. So good job, Phyllis.
I don't know. I probably still would have just taken that of the trade.
It would have taken it long. You still would have taken. It's like, no, it's got to go long.
I'm
That's
not
that's the
thinking the 30-minute chart. I would have all the other indicators. I would have just,
throwing them out. Yeah,
I would have just,
throw it out the window.
well, I wouldn't have, I would have been ignorant to the 30-minute chart and I would have just moved on in a happy way.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then I would have stopped out probably. Well, if I did opening range, I definitely would have stopped out.
Right,
My
right,
little,
yeah.
in my little zone that I picked, I would have gotten in just now. I'd be in the trade. And so it'll be interesting, but I didn't. I'm like, no, Chris is smarter than I am.
Oh my goodness.
That's
Uh,
why you're here. Don't do it. It's because I did look at the 30-minute. I'm like, no, it's gonna tank and it's gonna do that stop out that it does to me. So
oh, right. So if you were in this now, you'd be like making some money right now.
at the moment I'd be making some money and I'd be really happy.
Right,
But
right,
as soon
yeah.
as this decides to pull back, it'd be well, there it goes.
So you're in like this type of thing
If I was, but
in
I'm
that
not.
30 minute, yeah, 30-minute trend cloud. Yeah, I mean, we don't know, right? We can only trade. So if you're not looking at this, you can only trade what you see, right? So it's a really great observation. So if we're looking at this, yeah, we're saying, oh, okay, rally base rally, pull back. We're on the 30-minute. Oh, I found this nice rally base rally on this 30-minute. Hey, look at that. I'm a
Yeah,
genius. Look at this. It just touched. It's taking off. That's the situation right now, isn't it? That's
right.
this that's what it is right now, which is why it's so important to take targets, right? It's like, okay, I'm I'm usually partially correct for a certain period of time. So it's like you were right, you found the zone, price action did hit and is moving in your direction. So
Yep.
so far you're 100%. And then
I
what usually happens, is like, then later in the day, if you didn't take a target, it kind of pulls back because things start to change. Maybe they change rapidly. We've seen candles kind of go boom and like do something crazy. So a majority of the time, you'll be partially correct for, up to a certain point. And then, it's like that's why the longer trades, you open yourself up to more risk, right? Because there's more that could happen. So that's why, again, taking targets, so important, very important to take targets and trail that stop. So you'd be in this trade, you get risk free at a certain point, maybe at like a 1-to-1, you get risk free. You don't know how long. If you have two contracts, you pull one off at 1-to-1 or 1.5, something like that, just to get some, just to get a little bit of profit there, give you more of a cushion, get risk free,
You,
and let the market do whatever it's going to do.
and
You
you
know,
just described my trading life with the exception of Trend Cloud, that extended range says what would happen to me is, yep,
right?
I'd get there and then it would just drop and, then I'd
Sure.
back out. So I'm resisting that urge at the moment. I do kind of I want to see. Now it could be that it doesn't. I feel like with this pullback, this is our pullback. I think this is the pullback that we've been waiting for. But
Yeah.
it's like, or is it going to go another wave? But
Yeah.
it's pretty
Exactly.
significant. So yeah.
Everything you said makes sense. Everything you said makes total sense. And then you say, well, we don't know, right? We don't know what's going to happen, but we see some clues. It's like you always see clues, and you put those clues together and you make decisions as you go along. And so maybe if you saw this thing kind of pulling back into that zone, you're like, let's take off a contract. Let's get risk free just in case. A nice target is right at the top of this candle here. The body of the candle, that's a good target. So it's like, depending on how many contracts you have, it's like take one off, get risk free, take another one off at the top of the candle, let the other one run. The more contracts you have, the more you can do stuff like that. And that's great because it gives you more time to take profits as you're correct. You're partially correct the majority of the time, but for how long? When does it reverse or give us this deep pullback? So while I'm right, let's take some profit, let's take some targets while I'm right, you know. And that's kind of the thought process. That's how you trade defensively, right? Like, all right, so far I'm right on this. So far I'm right. Let's take a target. Let's get risk free. If it pulls back deeper, that's okay. You can only take what the market gives you, right? And that's really the pathway that you have to develop in your brain. You have to tell your neurons in your brain to, develop this path of defensive trading. And that I know I like to choose targets, but I really don't get to pick the target. You can choose the targets, you can choose the supply and demand zones, but you really don't get to make it 100%. You really don't get to say this is where it's going to happen. And as long as you keep that in your head, where you really aren't going to know how far it's going to go, how far it's going to pull back, it doesn't have to create anxiety. You just have to trade defensively. And when you can see the structure, like here's consolidation, here's a rally-based rally, so that's going to be, a demand zone. Consolidation, that's more, of a support level around it. Look at how it's all clustered together in this area somewhere in here, right? Let's take a chance on this. As soon as I hit 1-to-1, I'll get risk-free. And well, let's see what happens. If it extends itself a little bit more, hey, great. So getting risk free, pretty important step in the process. We got in, take a quick target, 1-to-1, get risk free, and then it's going to do whatever it's going to do. You can only take what the market gives you. Yeah.
If this 15-minute candle closes, I mean, what are our thoughts that we're moving out of this, that our pullback is over on this next 15-minute candle?
Oh, right. Yeah. Like, how do you know the pullback has ended?
Yeah, it's
You
like,
can
are we done with this pullback or is it gonna,
Yeah, yeah, great question. Yeah, so
is
what are the things, yeah,
it
what are the things we can look at? Here's Here's the 15-minute cycle indicator, right? This tells us when a pullback has ended. See this little pullback here? Red, 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 boom, right here, green. That, you know, now we know we're going to have some kind of a move up. So we're still red. Looks like percent K is starting to cross. It all depends on the formation of this candle here. Look how it came pretty close to that little zone we drew out, right? So that's one, right? How do we know the pullback has ended? Cycle indicator, right? Number two, drop down to a lower time frame. Start looking at those, trend cloud signals. Are we getting a trend cloud signal, right? We know the 5-minute trend cloud signal failed, but I don't see another here. Here we go, right? So is this going to form? We have to see. That's what's good about trend cloud. It's giving you oh, there we go. Okay, so we've got right there. Maybe this is it. We don't know. Keeping in mind that we're still extended on the 30-minute, right? So is the 30-minute extended? Is it going to kind of retest what it did here? Going to come up to the body of this candle, do some kind of a double top, and then go down? We know that's a classical charting pattern, right? Double top. So that's what's hard at as a beginner. You can't remember all this stuff. It's like we're basing our decision, on this extended trend here on the 30-minute because we know about extended trends. And 15-minute chart seems okay. This hit my zone. So far this is working. We're calling the shots on everything. It's where do you want to take the trade and where do you want to place that target?
Right.
And how do we do this defensively? And that would be the answer. Multiple contracts, right? Okay, I found a zone. It looks good to me. If I enter the trade here, I definitely want to take a target. And at this point, trend cloud signal. Wow, trend cloud signal fired off. Okay, that looks good. Let's get risk free, right? No,
For me, it's going back to the basics.
yeah,
I had my first session with you, and you were teaching me about the indicators. I was like, okay, Phyllis, we don't trade when, we get those little light blue candles. It's
right,
cold, it's ice. I just think of it
right,
as ice. So it's like, nope, we don't trade there.
yeah,
Nope, there's no trade, just don't do it. And when the cycle starts cycling down, and even when the CCI, so CCI was well up at 300, but now it's
yes,
cycling down. So anytime I start seeing things point down, I'm like, yep, no, there's just nothing there. So, and I was
yeah,
doing really, really well. I mean, in my profit account, I did really well those first 2 weeks, just following those
yeah,
rules. Then I
yeah.
started overthinking it.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to put together, and you have to remember too, it's it's random, the market can do anything. That's the problem, right? We love it when the market, okay, market, you're gonna trend like this, okay? And that's really gonna help me out. So I would appreciate it if you stuck to that pattern. But, things happen, so that's why the timing part of it is difficult. So the better that you can read price action, like you're doing beautifully, you think that you say, hey, you know what? This is looking a little weird, and it all goes back to that defensive posture, right? When you make your money, you want to protect that capital, and read the price action, right? So now you said you did well for like a couple of weeks, and then what happened?
I started
Overthinking.
I was overthinking, and I mean, I really, your core indicators. I mean, I think
Yeah,
I would start looking at the opening range, trades and go, well, no, maybe. And how, yeah. So I established
yeah,
my first set of rules of, hey, anytime, the CCI starts to angle down, just nope, Phyllis, don't do it. When the cycle starts cycling down, the trend cloud cycle, it's like, nope, get out. But I wasn't watching that as close. And I was like, no, 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 I'm going to stay in here and I'll just, I was protecting
yeah,
my stops. But I mean, I think I have to return back to the rules of no, if it's extended, don't touch it.
Oh yeah.
If the
Yeah.
CC
So you're
is cycling down, no, it may look good right now on paper, but it's going to catch up with it. What's happening on the hour and the
right.
3 hour charts is going to catch up with the 5 minute. So
Yes. The context. You're talking about the context of that higher time frame is
I started
always going to be, yes, it's always going to take precedence, right? That higher time frame context, 3 hours in an uptrend and very strong momentum, but we're still in this pullback phase, maybe on the 1 hour or something. When does it catch up? That's what you're talking about. When does it catch up? And these are the little signals on the lowest time frame that you look for to kind of get an idea, right? We don't know exact, but we can get a good idea and then only trade what you see. And, when you start to have all these nice visuals, trend cloud signals, the cycle. It really gives you a nice visual of what's going on. And that's going to help you say, hey, you know what? Everything's in my favor right now. It's okay to take a 1% risk. It's okay,
yeah,
and you take the risk and then, all right, take off a contract, get risk free, and then whatever happens, happens. A lot of times we tend to think, okay, we do all of that and we see that target like, oh man, if it just hits that ADR, it's going to be $1,000. But it kind of doesn't get to the ADR and then it pulls back and it's like really disappointing. Don't be disappointed. Don't be
right.
disappointed. You read price action so professionally, and you cannot control the market. You can just sort of kind of dance around it, with some options, like I could get in, here's a nice target, we could do that, and it's kind of a dance, it's kind of like this dance that you can do from, 9:30 to 11 or whatever. And then that's then the window closes and you're at work and you're doing other stuff. And I mean, look at how much you have to pay attention to what's going on. That's why I always laugh at these ads, and it says, "Oh, this is so easy." And it's a parent with like actually saw like an ad where it was this parent, it was this mom, and she had her baby on her lap, and she's like bouncing the baby, and with one hand she's on the computer, and she's like, "This is so easy, and day trading's a great whatever, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Whoa." Like you must be really good because I can't even have people in the room when I'm like doing this stuff. So takes a lot of concentration, and thought process. And you have to kind of have do it with blinders on, unless you're like, a master chef who can, really multitask, which I am not. I'm the worst multitasker. So I think that's why I'm good at this because I'm not a good multitasker and I like to work with blinders on. Even when I was at the office in my cubicle, if someone came over and asked me a question, I would lose like all concentration and I'd have to stop everything. That's just how my brain works, So something that I could really concentrate on, I actually enjoy. Like I enjoy being focused on something.
Yeah.
So I guess that's why this is a good thing for me. But so there we go. So we're on the 15-minute chart here, and we've got this signal kind of firing off. You could see a cycle indicator, right? Percent K crossing over percent D. 30 seconds left. That's a very bullish candle. How far is it going to go? We don't know, but it's definitely a bullish candle with a trend cloud signal in direction of, let's look at our time frames here. Uptrend on the 30-minute, uptrend across the board, right? Very strong momentum. 30-minute is still in a corrective phase here. So this little detail may tell you that on this 15-minute chart, it's probably not going to break through this. It's probably going to, retest this area and then move back down. And that's what we're seeing on the 15-minute. We're cycling up with the trend probably to this point because we're still cycling down on the 30-minute. So we're still in that corrective phase on the 30-minute, and we're just putting pieces together here, right? So the moral of the story is you can only trade what you see, and you were right. This little zone here, maybe it's not going to be a massive move, but it was strong enough. You found something that was strong enough to move it back up to this area to retest. So for the next time, in hindsight, it's like 30-minute trends extended. I'm going to have to be very cautious about these demand zones that I take. And that's it, Phyllis. That's your thought process. You found this extended trend on the 30-minute chart. Little red flag went off, or blue flag. It's like this thing, the car is running out of gas. I know it's got to come back down here. I don't know when. So being that momentum and trend are so strong to the upside, I'm going to have to be very careful on this demand zone.
Yeah, and what I'm hoping is that this next 15-minute candle really pulls back so that I can say, no, I was right not to get into
Oh,
my.
there you go. Right. Validation. Yes, of course. You did a fantastic job today. I mean,
Well,
you read price action, you called the shots, and it's working, right? It's like but you were right. You were right about everything. You're 100% correct since we started, you know, and don't be mad at yourself for not
no,
taking it, but it's like I have to be right about everything, right? Every single thing. And I love that. I'm the same way. It's like, please pull back. Validate my theory, because this
yeah,
is what,
validate it, please, so that I don't.
please validate that I did the right thing.
But
I get it.
it's okay. There's plenty of days of trading ahead. The market's not
Oh
going
yeah.
there. So,
You
but this,
gotta,
yeah, this was good.
yeah, you have to think about everything that you have to see. I do the same thing. And I had to stop myself and say, Chris, listen, you called the shots from here to here. Phyllis, how many people do you know that can do what you did just now? Like, how many
Well,
people do you know that could find an extended trend and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be really cautious on this zone that I also found. Take a short target, or, I'm really going to wait for that deep pullback. No matter what happens, I'm waiting for that deep pullback because I want to be a buyer on this thing. You called the shots from the time you got in here. So that's something to really be proud of. So yeah, excellent job. And again, think about it. How many people do you know that could do that?
well, most of you students. So,
Well, eh, I mean, that's why we're here. We're pretty proud. We're pretty proud to be Trend Cloud members, right? So I'm glad I could, produce something that's valuable,
Yeah.
and that people can enjoy. And that was my goal from the beginning, right? Let me make something that can really add value to somebody's skill level, and that's the best that I can hope for. So I thank you for that. That's awesome.
Thank you for doing the work on it and hanging out with us this morning. And now I'm
Yeah.
just gonna I'm gonna get to the gym and I'll come back and look and see what this thing did later, but at least I don't have to worry about it stopping out on me.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Awesome.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
You got it, Phyllis. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, guys. That was a good lesson in price action. We didn't get involved in a upward, breakout today because just didn't give it to us. And we filtered out the trade. We had a great conversation about putting the pieces together and making a strategy work. And that was a great lesson today. And we'll pick this up again tomorrow. But stay tuned. Here we go. Oh my goodness, we're getting a breakout here to the downside again. So that extended trend on the 30-minute chart that Phyllis found really helpful. This could be a really nice pullback, and we might be able to get in on a monster trade here. So we'll look for that. We'll pick it up again tomorrow. And just set some alerts, maybe. Why don't we set an alert down here? Add alert, boom, done. So if this thing pulls back the previous day's close where our, you know, zones are, we're going to get a notification, and we may have a big buying opportunity here later on today, and hopefully we can carry this thing till the end of the month. That would be spectacular. So great job, everybody, and I will see you guys tomorrow.